Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Xaereth Prevails, a Grand Arena story. Today we've got another episode of Grand Arena Championships. It is actually the finals, and I've won the last two rounds, which means that I get to go to the finals, and it's going to be a good one again today. As you can see, I'm already in the lower 300s, so I'm like getting up there. Alright, a couple reasons that I want to win today. First, I just want to win because I like to win. Second, I would love to get another Zeta mat because General, Skywalker is coming and he is going to potentially need 3 Zetas. I only have 2, so that will be great. Finally, however, in the chase for Kyber, you need to win about 10 matches, and that means you're going to be in 4 different groups, and you have to win at least 2 of those groups to be able to make it into Kyber. And then the other 2 you can kind of just like scrub out and only win 2, and so it would be great to be able to knock out one of those wins here. My opponent's roster is pretty good. The main difference between our rosters, frankly, is I have more Zetas and they have more relics. And that's kind of the thing that is going to be happening a lot as we sort out our different relic ranks and everything. My opponent had a reasonable advantage in that, but otherwise I have more Zetas and more gear. They have pretty similar amounts of gear 13, but I definitely do have the advantage in Zetas. I have 11 more, and then I have 83 versus 58 on gear 12, so pretty big advantage for me. Our mods are pretty similar. I would probably hold a slight advantage in that as well, though he has a very similar number of high-end mods, which I don't really know. I think that's probably the most important part of mods, to be honest.
Are you ready for a war?
So if you listen to my podcast, I had predicted that my opponent would be putting a Darth Revan team down on defense just based off of their win and loss ratios in terms of like how many zones that they've taken over lifetime wise, and that was not the case in the front ranks at the very least. So there was a pretty interesting like Ewoks with Nest team, and then General Grievous had 3 droids at gear 13, which is better than almost all the squads that I typically have to face. There was a pretty strong Nightsisters team, and then an Old Republic team that after looking at the mods and after doing a lot of soul searching, I decided that I would finally, maybe this would be like the final run of Phoenix. Like I wanted to use Phoenix one more time. Unless I start putting more gear on them, I think they're going to start getting outpaced by a lot of teams. They're just not doing enough damage. They're getting killed more often. But I thought that this was a safe matchup. There was a couple gear 11s in this squad to be able to face, and the speeds weren't super high. The damage numbers weren't super high. I thought this was probably a good match for Phoenix. Now, as always, I'll draw attention to the fact that you need to put Armor Shred on Zalbar as often and early as possible. And I'll also draw attention to the fact that despite my Zeb's tenacity, or rather potency, being really high, and Hera's assist giving him an extra 25% potency, Zalbar still was unable to land days on Zeb was unable to land days on Zalbar, and that's a really important part of this. Once again, I messed up and dispelled Zalbar's taunt instead of Juhani's, and I don't know when I'm going to stop doing that. Maybe this will be the last time I do it, because maybe I'll never run Phoenix against Old Republic again, but on the other hand, who knows, like maybe that's what's gonna, maybe I'm doomed to continually forget to dispel Juhani instead of Zalbar. So anyways, the armor shred stuff is going pretty well, and I think I got a couple lucky bumps from Chopper because every time he uses his basic, I think he reduces the cooldowns on one character at random, and so I think that he's probably reduced that on Sabine a couple times here by now. and that is really helpful because her grenades are great. You can kind of alternate between the two if you have her Zeta, and the grenades are really great, but you really want that armor shred every single time if you can. So here we're just trying to focus down Zalbar, and he's just really hard to beat. And I'm just putting on armor shred and armor shred and armor shred, and eventually you'll see he starts taking some damage, but right now it's not really that apparent. And in fact, they are really putting some pain on these guys. I was fortunate that I remembered with Hera, I put the revive ability on Kanan, and that really worked out pretty well, I think. He died, so apparently it did work well because he's still here. And Zalbar is still taunting. I had actually worked Carth down pretty low, and I was really hoping that I could take him out before Zalbar's taunt just kept going. So I was able to take Carth out, and I actually think that maybe that's something I should focus on in the future if I decide to do this match more often. If I can take Carth or Mission or Canderous, one of those guys, out before, that's going to really reduce the amount of hits that my whole team is going to be taking. And if I remember correctly, in a lot of the matches that I've won in the past with Phoenix, it's actually been because Carth has done his AoE, and then all of the Phoenix got all mad and just hit him really hard and took him out. So maybe that's in the cards for the future. I would be really interested to see what a Gear 13 Phoenix team would look like, actually, with some relics. I mean, I'm sure they could blow this team out of the water, because even at Gear 12 they're doing okay, but I wonder if they've been balanced. I wonder if anyone's been brave enough to find that out. If anyone can link me something, I would love to see Gear 13 with high relic Phoenix. That would be really fun. So as always, once Zalbar is out and down for the count, the rest of the squad just kind of folds. It's not that hard. The Phoenix squad really is really resilient. I took a ton of damage. Kanan died once, and they are at full health and protection right now, which is crazy. 60 banners is great. They are really good at banners efficiency when they can win. And the teams that they can beat are kind of shrinking, the number of eligible teams. So I'm hoping maybe relics will do that, or maybe this squad is just doomed to obscurity, especially now that their ships aren't even going to be used in the ship meta anymore. So the other team in this zone was Nightsisters, and I have been working on my troopers for a while now, and you have to have really specific mod sets. As in, you not only do you need the right type of mods and you need to be fast enough, you also need to be able to have a specific turn order. So you need to have Stark go first, and then Death Trooper to be able to dispel the zombie taunt, followed by Range Trooper calling more buffs, and then Snow and Veers can go after that. So you're trying to ride the turn meter train. Every time they get a buff, they get 10% turn meter. Every time they get a kill, I think they each get 60 turn meter or something like that, 60%. And so they're just trying to hit first and get a kill with the initial barrage. And after that, hopefully they can just ride that turn meter train and never have to look back. So first, you're just trying to target the person with the lowest effective hit points, and you take one person out and zombie revives them. And then I tried to do a death mark hit on Talzin, and apparently one of the other troopers got credit for the kill because she stood back up again. That would have been huge to just be able to take Talzin out like that. As it stands, she did get her plague off, and you can see all of my health pools are really low, at least on Death Trooper and Stark. And so you want to get rid of Daka and Asajj and Talzin as fast as you can. But now the troopers are all below 100% health, and you want to be able to get full banners. So you can just spend a little bit of time just taking zombie out over and over again to be able to regrow that health and protection, because that's another thing that they do. That's an element of their kits. And as you can see, Spirit's turn meter, even though she's like 100 plus 130 speed or something crazy like that, like it's shrinking because every time I kill zombie, I'm gaining enough turn meter that the rest of the troopers can just keep going and going perpetually. And Stark's Zeta ability is actually reducing Spirit's turn meter. So that was a pretty nice win for me there. Built some confidence. I'm gonna be adding more gear to that squad. I think that Imperial troopers are actually going to end up being one of my cornerstone Grand Arena teams. So in the back we have Shaak Ti Clones, which isn't that shocking, haha, and KRU without all gear 12, so it was actually not going to be super tough. However, first I needed to take out this General Grievous zone. Having 3 gear 13s in there really changes things, and I went into this match, I'm going to use Jedi Knight Revan. Like that's a pretty obvious choice for me. That's my go-to. That's the one I have all my practice with. There's really no point in deviating from that at all. You use Jedi Knight Revan, but you put Bastila as lead because she reduces, or she actually gives a lot of tenacity and protection to her team. So the goal here is you want to do the AoEs first so that B2 is going to get a turn eventually. You want B2 to go because everyone is stealthed from Magna Guard's unique now that he got buffed. So you want B2 to go, and then you're using Jedi, and Jedi rely on buffs. Like they all need a ton of buffs. That's how they operate. They're not that great without them. And so every time that you're taking out, every time that you're hitting one of these other droids, B2 is potentially gaining full turn meter again. And that's not what you want. You don't want B2 to gain a ton of turn meter, because then he's going to be dispelling you and all of your buffs are gone, and as I said, you can't really operate without your buffs. So here we took out B2, and I was actually a little excited. I wanted to try this theory. My opponent had a gear 13 Magna Guard, which means that he's a lot more resilient than the usual Magna Guard. Usually my Jedi are a little too strong and punch Magna Guard too hard and take him out. And you don't want, this is a Relic 7 General Grievous. He's going to be hitting hard, and you don't necessarily want to invite more attacks from him. So killing Magna Guard is not something you want to do right away, because it will trigger General Grievous's unique, and then he'll do a huge AoE, and he's going to be really frustrating and do a ton of damage to your whole team. That's not something you want. So the whole thing that you've been biding your time for is waiting for Jedi Revan to get his mark again. And once he gets his mark, then it's game on. You need to target General Grievous right away and just do as much damage as you can to him till he's done. Once he's done, the rest of the squad really just folds. And so one thing about Gear 13 Relic 7 Grievous, though, is that he has a huge health pool, and B1 is able to just constantly heal him. If General Grievous does get another turn, then he has health up, which means, or health steal up, so if he hits, he's going to be regaining a lot of that health pool. So you're just trying to, keep doing damage until he's gone. Obviously, dispelling when you can. He keeps shrugging off all of your debuffs, and that's annoying. But in the end, once you take him out, the rest of the fight is actually pretty easy. And then I say that, and then Droids gets his crazy special off and takes out Jedi Revan. But at this point, we're not really worried about any more big damage. Droids is going to take a while to spool up again and do a huge amount of damage again. And we have Jolee, and Jolee's nowhere near being taken out. He still has his cooldowns reset for his revive, and now it's all over but the cry. And now what we're trying to do is maximize our banners, which means regenerating our protection and health. And honestly, at this point, I just wanted to be done. I had full health, and I thought most of my guys had full protection. I wasn't sure which ones did or didn't, but it didn't really matter because they were out of hit points, and 59 is a wonderful result. Like you're always shooting for that. 60 is obviously better. I say that every episode, but and it's true. I hope you realize, because that's math. But otherwise, being able to get in the high 50s against a General Grievous squad, like that's one of the premier defense teams that people are putting out on defense in Grand Arena these days. And so if you can get 59 banners there, then that is wonderful. Now I took Jedi Training Rey against Ewoks with Nest because they are decent at being able to take out Nest. Once you can get tenacity down on Nest, she is beatable as long as you can take bite-sized chunks out of her. But first you need to deal with the Ewoks here, and the Ewoks are, frankly, like, they're not that fast. They're all gear 11, so they don't have big health pools, and I wasn't going to lose to Ewoks with almost any of my teams, but especially not with Jedi Training Rey, who has a ton of turn meter manipulation, and they're all pretty high level gear. The key to beating a team like Ewoks is really to just control their turn meter train. Once you start doing that, then you can really do a lot of good against them. So you see that I've been kind of ignoring Nest. I've been reducing her turn meter, and she doesn't really have that much speed on her, so she also has a huge amount of tenacity. So what I want to do is get tenacity down on her right away, so that then when I try to stun her, or I try to daze her, or whatever kind of debuffs, it's actually going to land, and we can just kind of ignore all of her huge, awesome tenacity. And now we're going to spend 3 minutes trying to chop Nest down. I'm actually going to speed it up here. I'm not going to fast forward too much here, though, because it is important for you guys to see the process of taking Nest down. I feel like that's actually a problem that a lot of people have had lately, even in my guild, which is a really good territory war and Grand Arena guild in general. People just kind of struggle against Nest, and so the key is just keeping her contained. Like, you get tenacity down on her, which in this squad, that's BB-8, and then you do a bunch of basics. You don't want to reduce her turn meter. And every time you use a special with Rey's team, you reduce her turn meter depending on if she has expose on her. And so you just don't want to take a chance. You're just going to be doing basic attack, basic attack, basic attack. Now you want to identify which characters of yours are the big damage dealers. In this case, it is absolutely not R2 or BB-8. And so you want to, when they have a turn, to go when Nest comes out of her protection, when she comes out of her stun, and all of her bonus protection is gone, she's vulnerable, you can hit her actual health pool, and you don't want BB-8 to be the one to do that, because you have limited number of hits before you time out. And so when BB-8 or R2 are up in that situation, then just use their specials and pass the turn to someone who's actually good at doing damage. So in the back we have a pretty standard Qi'ra team with Newt randomly, and then really moderately scary Bossk team with Watt in there. Now once I was at this point, I realized that I had actually kind of overdone myself. I had 4 meta teams and First Order. First Order is a squad you generally want to use because you can get high banners with them, and I only had 4 teams to counter, and none of them were really that scary except for the Shaak Ti Clones, so I wasn't sure. So I decided Qi'ra Scoundrels would go with First Order because I usually get 60 banners against them. I wanted to use Commander Luke against First Order because I could 3-man that squad. I would use an undersized Darth Revan squad against the Shaak Ti Clones, and then I had to decide whether I wanted to use Qi'ra or Padme against Bossk, so I'll let you guys just sit in anticipation and figure that out with me. One thing I do want to point out is that I was actually on course to having pretty close to having a perfect match if I could get my full banners. Perfect being 1920. I realize that you can get higher than that if you work extra hard and your opponent has extra weak defenses, so that you can get the understrength wins and all that, but that's not that practical in general. So my goal is always to get over 1910 banners if I can, and even that is really hard to do. So Here in this match, First Order take on Scoundrels all the time, and it's fairly standard. What you want to do, you want to negate the different tanks. There's actually 2 in this squad. There's actually 3 if you want to count Vander Chewbacca. But L3 and Stormtrooper Han are both pretty credible Scoundrel tanks, and Vander is the one that you really want to target first, because he is the one who's going to be able to revive your characters if you're the opposing characters. If you take them out, if he gets prepared, then they're going to be able to revive, and you're not going to be able to have any fun. So here I kind of made a mistake. I dispelled L3 instead of dispelling Stormtrooper Han. So I'm like 0 for 2 in the dispelling tanks game in this match, but luckily there's a lot of imbalance with this squad. First Order just completely has Qi'ra's number. Like, it's really hard to lose this match if you have relatively strong gear, and I do. I have as good of speed, and so you just need to be patient is basically all there is to it in this match. We were able to sneak in a win, or a kill at least, against Stormtrooper Han before Vander Chewie had prepared. And you can see that he has prepared, which means he had to have full protection, and he was like almost dead at one point. And Qi'ra is so good at being able to regenerate protection and health on Scoundrels. She's just a really great leader. I really love that they made her as good as she is for Scoundrels. I do wish that there was at least one more Scoundrel leader. It seems like we could really use one more. I know that some diehards are going to tell me that Clone Wars Chewie is the leader everyone's looking for, and he does absolutely actually fill a pretty interesting role in the Scoundrels faction, I've come to realize, but he's not the Scoundrel leader I want. He's not interesting, really. Like, there's not much going on with him. It's hilarious when you get a win with him as the lead, and beyond that, it's like, okay, I guess I don't really care that much. So here I'm just trying to drag the fight out a little bit, regenerate my protection, and I didn't really have enough time. So 58 banners, that's probably the worst that I've done with Qi'ra against Qi'ra with First Order, and that was unfortunate. So I immediately jumped into this fight here with Shaak Ti. Apparently I didn't even record getting into the attack screen or whatever, the squad screen, so I did take an undersized squad with Revan. I don't think I've ever done this match before using Revan against clones, and it's not super challenging though. Like, you have fear on everyone, and if you can take out Shaak Ti pretty quick, I mean, the squad is going to be really strong, I'm sure, with General Skywalker, but in its current incarnation, like, I've seen people who don't really know what they're doing use Jedi Training Rey to be able to take this squad out. I did want to be a little careful. I mean, they have high relic levels. Actually, they had higher relic levels than my Darth Revan team had. So I wanted to make sure that I was going to win. I didn't want to chase having that perfect score too hard. Like, you want to win before you have a perfect score. Like, you need to be able to win, and if you get upset in this, like if you lose against clones with your Revan team, then that's probably going to set you back quite a bit. So I did get 60 banners there. Malik wasn't quite able to regenerate all of his health, but as it stood, there were 2 squads remaining, First Order and Bounty Hunters with Watt and the high relic, or at least the relict, Bossk lead there. First I wanted to try CLS against First Order. Now this can be a really lopsided match. You want to be really careful. You don't want to take C-3PO here because he has so many debuffs that it actually heals Kylo Ren and Kylo Ren both if you do too many debuffs, to the point where you can't even kill them. And you're debuffing them so much, and they have tenacity down, that they never get a turn, and you can seriously time out with a Commander Luke team with C-3PO. So you're actually stronger against First Order if you don't take 3PO, which sounds crazy, I realize, but that's how it works. So this was a pretty quick and dirty one. 62 banners, perfect. I'm on track. If I can get 61 banners in my next attack, then I'll be able to get a perfect score, which I don't think I've had in the like modern championship era, so to speak. I think I had one or two back when we just had like the 3 and done rounds, but I had to think for a while about which team I wanted to use, and in the end I decided Padme had the best chance at being able to get 61 banners, because if she can go first, then she's able to give protection up to the whole team if everyone just has protection up the whole fight. And my Relic 7 Jedi Knight Anakin is able to just like wipe them out right away, then I might be able to get full protection. However, with like Traya, I don't think it would be possible to get 61 banners. Like all 3 of the characters, you could 3-man this pretty easy, I think, but all 3 of those characters would go without protection, and you'd be down to like 59 banners. So Watt goes. She gives the unbreakable buff from Watt up to Bossk. So now we can't dispel his taunt no matter what. And our goal here is just to get as many stacks of protection up as we can. And as you can see, Bossk is already almost dead because Jedi Knight Anakin at Relic 7 is insane. And having all those stacks of courage really helps. Being able to take out Bossk and then Watt is probably the best course of action. I really probably should have taken out Boba first, though, because he got that shot off of it with his execute on Kenobi, and I think that probably took my protection down. I don't really know. I don't have a way to regrow protection, and as it stood, like I was able to take the squad out, no problem at all. But one of my characters, and watching this, I couldn't tell which one. I think it was Kenobi. Lost their protection. So 60 banners and not a perfect score, which is disappointing, but you know, it's still a fantastic score. Like I don't think I've gotten this high of a score either. I think my highest before this was 1917 or something. So extremely pleased with this result. Don't take it as whining. I was like slightly disappointed because it would just be a nice round number, but it's something to strive for in the future. A little bit later, I was able to observe as my opponent attacked, and they got 60 points right away against my Geonosians, and then they got 64 against my Qi'ra squad, which means that they used Malak to be able to 1v5 them. So that was kind of scary, because I immediately did not, like, I was kind of behind in banners at that point, and my opponent just like kept chomping down my squads, and they were finally able to drop a few banners against my Jango squad, and then they dropped quite a few banners against the Shaak Ti, and then they took out my Grievous squad, and I was pretty sure that I was going to get full cleared, which it does absolutely happen. So let's see what my defenses hold. So one shot against Geos and Qi'ra, which is expected. Unfortunately, Qi'ra gave them 64 banners. Emperor Palpatine gave up, I think, 61 banners. The Newt Nest team actually cost my opponent like 3 banners. The Jango squad cost another few, I don't know. Shaak Ti cost a few. So my opponent wasn't getting perfect clears at the end. And then they actually ended up failing against my Nightsisters a few times. And that was pretty much that. I actually didn't get full cleared here. I thought that I was on track to. I was actually pretty nervous about getting full cleared, so I was pretty relieved because my opponent had been extremely efficient the entire attack phase.
Give him your wallet.
What for?
He's got a knife.
That's not a knife. That's a knife.
I'm sure that you all trust me here, but this is proof that I was in the finals, and that was my opponent. So I did end up winning the match, and it's been pretty cool to see my defense has been doing really well. My opponent was very complimentary of how well my defense was, how strong it was, especially considering I was able to full clear them so efficiently. And I feel a little bad that they're going to have to watch this video and see that I also had a Traya squad that just went completely unused. But I feel like I'm, even though I was already kind of good at Grand Arena, I feel like I am improving, which is always a really nice thing to feel like, you're making progress. So before I go, I did want to spend a minute to plug my friend Klesso. He does Grand Arena videos as well on YouTube. He's got a way bigger YouTube following than me, actually. So I don't know how much good this plugging is going to do, but he is the guy who gave me the idea after watching some of his videos to start running troopers as anti-Nightsisters squad. So he absolutely deserves credit for that. And if you want to see his stuff, which I highly recommend, his Grand Arena videos are fantastic. And he made Kyber last season. I will provide the link at the bottom of this video description. Or actually, it'll be at the top. And otherwise, just you could search for him for his site on YouTube. It's spelled Klesso. So go check him out. He's good at what he does. And that's a wrap, folks. Stay tuned for the next round. Thank you so much for watching. And remember that in all things, Xaereth prevails.